Okay, so I've finished arc 29 of Worm, and like transparency update to see where I'm at. I'm on the second chapter of 30. I'm very early on. I have about 5.5 hours left of this arc, and then all of 31. My plan is I do work later today, so I won't be able to just sit down and read all of it, but a little bit before work and possibly after work, I'm going to try to get a lot of spec done. If I can finish it, that would be great. And if so, I will finish Worm tomorrow. If I don't get spec done today, I will try to finish spec tomorrow, and we'll see if I finish 31 tomorrow. I would say at worst, I plan, like in case like something comes up, I plan on finishing the story Tuesday. If everything goes to plan, I can finish it tomorrow. So I'm expecting to finish it somewhere in the middle, so around Monday. As for 29, I believe this was Venom. I'm really torn on it because the first chunk of it I thought was really good, really exciting. I'm like, this is what I signed up for. This is what I want to read here at the end. Then there's this pretty lengthy section in the middle where I'm like, I understand why this is here. I understand the significance, at least of some of it. Some of it, I'm like, feels like filler and spinning its wheels. I don't care. And then when we get to the last chunk, I'm like, okay, we're back on track. It's gotten good again. I'm not bored anymore. So the good shit, it's like the pre-fight with Zion and actually fighting him. There's some neat little tidbits here and there. Like I really love that whole bit with like Imp, the Chicago Wards, Rachel, and Dr. Baby Talk, who I think is supposed to be Lab Rat, but I don't remember. That whole bit of how they're trying to get Rachel to fuck with him was really funny. And they're like, hey, what I can do is like, okay, here's the plan. Tecton, you're a tech dude. So how about you write down a bunch of technical shit? I Imp will hold the sign, and like Dr. Baby Talk won't see me, but Rachel can, and Rachel can just read what I'm saying. And Rachel's like, I literally can't read. Oh. Well, don't I feel like a fucking asshole for bringing it up? No, it was funny. Like, I don't care that I can't read. Just tell me what to say and I'll memorize it, and we could still do the joke. It's funny. Like, I don't know. I really enjoyed that. There's this neat little tidbit about how much stronger. How much stronger? I don't know if that didn't sound quite grammatically correct. How much stronger Vista is now that there's less people around, because they talk about the Manson effect. And I know that's something they notice. The more people around, the weaker Vista is because she can fuck with inorganic matter, not organic matter. And now that most of the population is gone, she's just a monster. And I'm like, that's really cool. I liked that. There's this scene again with the Chicago Wards and like with Grace fucking kind of like with one of the new recruits. And she has this short conversation with Taylor, which is essentially, you never loved us. Yeah, but was this in an earlier arc? Because I feel like this is something I talked about already, but it might have been when I was talking about 28, and I'm like, I've already read this part of 29. Like, you didn't love us. You liked us. We were teammates, but you didn't love us. Even though you were with us for like 2 years, and I'm not gonna lie, it hurts. Seeing how much you've like drawn away from us, and Golem doing the same thing, I'd be lying if it said it didn't break my heart. And I really liked that scene. Like it I talked about it before, like especially in 25. I'm like, I really wanted to get invested in the Chicago Wards, and I like them fine. It's she's basically it almost felt like she was talking to me. It's like, I like you guys, yeah, but you didn't love us. So like, yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I really liked that. And we get to the actual fight with Zion just showing up covered in blood, fucking shit up, being a problem. They talk about Gavel and like how strong he is, and then Zion blows a hole through him and tears him in half. Queen of Swords. What did he do to her? It was like he grabbed her and just like slammed her into the ground and kept slamming her like deeper and deeper into the ground. Two like really gnarly, violent kills. At one point, he like blasts Kid Win, and I'm like, okay, I think he just died. Rip K Dubs. Like that kind of sucks. He nearly killed Bastard. At one point, he nearly killed Foil, and like barely got her out of there. It was. I was enjoying it, and not be like, yeah, I was enjoying the carnage, although kind of. This is like, okay, we're getting into the climax. Like, we just got a party together to fight the final boss. Let's see how it goes. I liked all the pre-fight shenanigans, kind of like, we're about to fucking die. Let's kind of shoot the shit for a bit, and then everything hits the fan, and then Zion leaves, and I kind of like that, given his character. The fact that he's not, at least not yet, we'll get to that, but he's not yet angry enough to just destroy them all at once, even though he can. It's been a while since he's had a fight. Are they threats to him? Maybe not necessarily, at least not in his eyes. But it's fun. And it's been a while since he's been able to enjoy himself like this. And I like that he's just, like, hit here, go over here, go over here. I'm going to destroy you all, but not in one fell swoop. Because how... You know, what's that genie line, like, 10,000 years give you such a crick in the neck? It's almost something like that. It's like, I haven't had a good workout in a while. I'm enjoying this. Like, what a bastard, but it... I don't remember what arc this was. I think it was around... It was either I was talking about the fight with Behemoth or I was talking about Kevin Norton and his interlude. I think it was Kevin Norton. I was like, I can't wait to learn more about Zion at the time, Big Z, as I like to now call him. Like, I can't wait to get to his interlude because it's going to be so fucking interesting, and I know I'm going to love it. And what do you know? It's arguably my favorite part of the whole fucking story. He's easily one of my favorite characters. Just how alien he is, because he's literally a fucking alien. It's so interesting to me. But, after he leaves... This is where it started to get kind of boring for me. So the plan is, okay, Cauldron did not help. Doormaker's not opening doors. We gotta go figure out what the fuck is going on. So we have to go, like, find Cauldron's base, infiltrate the base, see if we can find them, beat their asses if they abandon us, and if they're in trouble, help them out, and see what other information we can learn. Which on paper, sounds great. Like, that sounds really fun. There's this whole thing with the Vegas capes, and I don't give a shit, and I'll tell you exactly why. The Vegas capes were not introduced until Arc 23, and I specifically remember reading 23 and going, look, the story has a lot of people already, and you're just throwing more and more and more and more and more onto the pile. If someone, like, is more important later, I'll pay more attention to them, but look, like, I'm getting kind of overwhelmed at this point. So while it seemed like they were being set up for something bigger, they didn't leave a huge impression. You see them again in 25, not doing a whole lot outside of the Pretender Alexandria situation. And in that final interlude, where, like, there's a couple scenes here and there, there's one between Pretender and Satyr, and I'm like, okay, it's not really going anywhere, but it's basically them being like, hey, like, we're gonna be important later, we're gonna do cool shit, and I guess this was that, and it wasn't really anything. They were in the base, they were taking care of some of the irregulars, and then get into not even really a fight, it's more of like a squabble and a skirmish with Taylor and co, and it didn't, for me, unless something happens in, like, the next 2 chapters, or maybe it's a ward thing, I don't know, but the entire time I was thinking, why is this here? What have any of them contributed to the narrative? The closest is the Pretender Alexandria situation, and honestly, I think it'd be a bit more interesting if, no, it was still just Alexandria. And Taylor almost got her, and, like, the idea that she had to fake her death, like, I think would have been a little more interesting to me than what I'm actually getting. And if that's all, as I said, I just didn't care about anything with the Vegas Capes. They were introduced way too late to like make an impact on me. And I didn't really see them doing anything except like, we'll be important, and then no, not really. This just took up time, and like, we're at the end of the story. I don't want to be spinning my wheels with random bullshit. It's why in Arc 25, it's why I hated 25, because that's how 25 felt. The whole topsy-turvy thing in Chicago, I'm like, this, if this was early in the story, and we're just getting we're just establishing the setting, trying to get a good vibe for what Powers could do, and what Brockton Bay is like. I know it's in Chicago, not Brockton Bay. But that kind of shit, and establishing the Undersiders and some of their enemies and like the gang warfare, this would have been an amazing chapter and fight. As is here, I'm like, why do I care about this? If this was cut, what would I have missed? I would have missed a pretty cool fight and cool Powers. Sure. But I'm at a part in the story where I'm like, dude, I've seen a lot of really cool fights and cool Powers. It's not like I just want to get to the ending, because I'm enjoying a lot of these other bits along the way. But if it can be cut at this point, I'd probably rather it be cut. That was how I felt about this. And on top of that, I'll be honest, I kind of feel the same way about most of the Irregulars. Weld, obviously not. Weld has been an established character. He is a favorite of mine. I like to say, like I was talking to Anthony about it the other day, Weld is one of the most unambiguously good people in the setting. And in a setting like Worm, it's really appreciated to see someone who's just a good guy. Also gotta give a shout out to like Chevalier and Theo for being very similar. I miss Militia too. I think I could say that about Dragon. Definitely not Colin. He gets there. But not Colin. There was a whole first half of the story I can't ignore, although he is one of my favorites. But most of the Irregulars are just, like, I don't want to say monsters, because in context, that's kind of racist. But that's how they feel. It's just like, yeah, here's like a cool monster, a cool enemy to fight while you're in a dungeon. Rather than, here's a really interesting character with all of their history and backstory. Sveta is an exception to that. Not only because, like, okay, like, really weird, like, interesting design. We see the relationship with Weld. Like, that's kind of interesting. Especially because I really like Weld. So him having, a good friend is cool. We had that interlude as part of Jessica's interlude with Sveta. And she left an impression as, like, I remembered the weird tendril girl. Like, what the hell? And her conversations with Dr. Mother. I felt like with her, the story went out of its way to humanize this character and get me really interested in and invested. With most of the other 53s, it was just kind of, okay, I guess we're doing this. It makes sense that we're doing this. Like, I don't want to be like, what the fuck is this? This is dumb bullshit. It makes sense. It's just, there's like 2 of you I'm invested in. All this other shit is just, it felt like filler. And also thinking about it, I'm like, I probably would have liked this more if it was Faultline. Like, what if, because Faultline's thing is like, you know, like helping the Case 53s, and a lot of her party are Case 53 members. Neuter is, Gregor is. I think Sveta, was it Sveta? It might have been someone else, like, specifically referenced Shamrock, so I think she's also a Case 53. Scrub isn't, but he has a Cauldron cape because of the skid mark thing. I don't know if Faultline's Cauldron. I want to say she naturally triggered. I could be wrong about that. I don't know about Spitfire, and I'm assuming Labyrinth is, with, like, how fucked her brain is. Faultline, we've seen, like, has beef with Cauldron, and her party has beef with Cauldron. So, if Weld's Irregulars had joined up with her, and maybe you don't have to make it, like, 100, like, I don't know how many are actually in the Irregulars, but, like, you take Weld, Gully, Sveta, maybe a couple others, and put them in Faultline, and that's what's going on, I'd be a lot more invested. It's like, oh, I actually know these people a bit more. And sure, like they don't show up a lot or do a lot, but whenever they do, I get excited. You're like, no, like they're kind of cool. I like their powers. I like their interactions. They got my boy Gregor the Snail. They're cool as fuck. And instead, I'm like, I get a bunch of like nobodies of the week. Also, here's Weldon Sveta, and I'm like, I think this could, if different characters had been used, I would have been a lot more invested. I'll go ahead and bring this up. This is unrelated to 29, but it's related to what I was just talking about. It was something I thought like an arc or two ago. Actually, before I get into that, okay, quick pin, because something else I forgot to write down. With everything that's going on right now in Gold Morning, with all the different worlds and shit, my brain is just going, do we see the rest of the Travelers? Is that a thing? Like, has Zion gone to their world and, like, destroyed it? Has he just not bothered and not cared because there's not supposed to be powers in that world, but now there are? Like, has the Travelers going back doomed their home? Are they fine? Are they going to show up at the end for the final fight? I understand why they wouldn't, because of, like, dude, we don't want to do this shit anymore. We're out. Like, I get it. But it feels like it would make sense for them to show up. And also, yeah, Perdition has not shown up again. I don't know where the fuck he is. Like, I don't care about him, but it does make him like, yeah, so he just came back for this, fucked some shit up, killed one of my favorite characters, and was never seen again. But that just bothers me. But anyways, I do want to take this pen out. Whatever happened to Madison? Like, you remember early on when there were 3 bullies? There was Emma, there was Sophia, then there was Madison. I don't think I've seen her or heard from her or about her since, I think, that meeting in the school. What arc was that? Because it was after Taylor slaps Emma, which was around Bakuda. So I think that was like 4 or 5. So I think that meeting was either arc 5 or arc 6. I literally don't think I've seen her character since then, because we haven't gone to school since Leviathan. She was not there during the confrontation with Emma at Arcadia High, and certainly hasn't been seen since. Didn't hear about her, like, during the 9, during Coil, anything like that. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, so either she's around, and, like, either she got out of Brockton Bay, or it's, like, been in Brockton Bay, and just has not been seen or heard from. There's a non-zero chance, like, due to Leviathan and the 9, and some of the other shit that's gone on in this city. Like, there's a non-zero chance she's just dead. But I was thinking to myself, I was like, look, I have no beef with Charlotte. I like Charlotte just fine. What if Madison was Charlotte? What if when Taylor and Lisa went to that merchant party and they saw this girl who was having to dance for all of these psychos and was terrified for her life? What if it wasn't, hey, here's just like a girl who needs help, let's help her, and then the girl goes, oh, wait, I recognize you, you're the bug girl. Oh, shit, I really shouldn't have said that, I'm so sorry. What if it was one of her bullies? And Taylor is in this situation where I can let my bully get bullied and let her feel what that's like, or I can be the better person and help. And again, there's a little bit of that with Charlotte, where she's like, you were a fucking bystander, you were aware of what was going on and did nothing, you're just as culpable as they are, but sure, I'll help you. I'm like, I still like that. But having to actually help one of her bullies, that's a big deal. And seeing Taylor have to walk her way through that and live with the decision either way is super. And I think she would have been tempted, but I think she still would have helped her. And having one of her bullies, because we've seen how Emma reacted to realizing what she did. We've seen Sophia react to it. I think it'd be interesting to see Madison and having to be her minion now, because I remember when Emma came back into town, I was like, what if? Actually, it was technically when her dad came back into town, so I think Emma came a little bit later. It was during, is Carol, Carol's sister is Photon Mom, Lady Photon, so Photon Mom, so Carol is Brandish. During Brandish's interlude, they mentioned that Alan is back in town, and I was like, if he's here, his daughter might be here. I hope I get to see her interact with Skitter. Not with Taylor, although I want to see that, and it was great when I got it. I want to see her interact with Skitter. Like, her going to a supervillain and saying, I want to help. Either, like, out of, maybe not out of a sense of altruism, but, like, look, I hear you're, like, it's a job. I want to work for a supervillain. And again, like, her thing of, like, survival of the fittest, be strong, don't be a victim, be a survivor. This is what a survivor does. They join up with the stronger people. And how Skitter would have to react to that. Like, how does she save face? Does she say, no, fuck you, I don't want to? Does she do some shit to make Emma prove herself and, like, try to humiliate her? Or does she kind of say, okay, it is what it is? And I never got that, and that's not an inherently bad thing, because again, I love how Emma is handled. But we could have gotten that with Madison, and I think Madison in the Charlotte role would have basically done what Charlotte's doing, but made it a little bit more interesting. And I'm really sad that never happened. But anyways, back to 29. It's great, and then I'm like, boy, I don't care about these Vegas capes, and boy, I wish I cared about the irregulars, but I just don't. But then we meet up with the rest of Cauldron, and everything clicks back into place. We've got Number Man and his clones, and I think that's just kind of fun. Contessa's been taken care of. We see her in interlude. She's fine. We get the scenes of Sveta talking to Dr. Mother. It's like, do you know what you did to us? Like, do you understand what you did to us? Was it worth it? Is what you did to me worth it? Like, I remember the night when you took me. I can't remember my parents anymore. I don't even remember my name. But I remember that night. I remember how it felt. The years of having to be like this. Can you fathom that, Doctor? Look, kid. What do you want? Because, like, as it's going on, the Doctor's just like, I know why I did it, and I have no regrets. I have no regret. Okay, what the fuck? What do you want? I want you to tell me my name. Can you at least remember that? And the Doctor has no fucking clue. But it's okay. Because even though the two of them are arguing, even though they get into a spat, they just hug it out. They just get to hug it out and work out their problems and just, crush all of their... Oh, boy. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I love Dr. Mother. Like, I find this a really interesting character. As I was reading this arc specifically, my brain just went, man, Viola Davis would kill this role. But that was some satisfying shit to read. I think my favorite scene in the arc, except maybe the ending, is... Because as they're walking around, it's before the hug happens. But they're trying to get to... So they're talking about, like, what the fuck can we do here? And how there's, like, the super serum. It's like, here's the cape serums. Here's, like, the really good ones. And one of those went to Eidolon. And Dr. Mother's going to try to take one to see if she can trigger. They talk about second trigger events. And Number Man's like, no, Taylor, you've already triggered twice. It was when you had your trigger event, it just happened twice. So I'm assuming... So I kind of wonder how that worked. Like, so her power was... like an awareness of bugs and then she could control them, or is like her control just got a lot stronger, or is the like multitasking superpower, was that something that was always there, or was that part of the second event, or like the first event? Like, I don't know. I'll put it like this. I'm not trying to call bullshit in any way. I'm just like literally like my brain going, so what part of her power is from the second? Because I know what it is for Brian. I don't really know what it is for Taylor. But anyways, it also kind of something makes you wonder, it's like, yeah, how often does that happen? That someone triggers and immediately triggers again? I imagine it's not uncommon. And she does ask, she's like, okay, I have powers. If I, like, drank one of these, would I get another power? No, it doesn't work. Believe us, we tried. The scene that I loved, though, is when Zion shows up and he sees all the vials and he sees the powers. He sees the shards from his other half. And he's quiet because he's always quiet. He said 5 words in the entirety of the series thus far. Zion and you needed worthy opponents. Anyways, it's him there just looking at them. And not looking at anyone else, just seeing his companion. And either it's the, like, what she's been reduced to and what they've done to her, or just that being around her. I'm using genders. I don't think they really have genders, but Zion does seem more male adjacent, and it sounded to me that the Thinker was a little more female adjacent. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it, so that's how I'm saying it. And the way he's, like, picking up the vials, it was almost like he was caressing them, like caressing what was left of her. And that's why he's one of my favorite characters in the story, because yeah, as alien as he is, as they keep saying, he's so fundamentally human. And I loved it. And they escape from him, and then, well, they can't escape from him. Dr. Mother and Sveta get their big old hug together. And they end up in, like, the, like, super cauldron basement, which is where the Thinker is. And they're like, this isn't even a person anymore. This is like a garden. As they were describing it, I was just thinking of Ava. And how, like, at the bottom of Nerve headquarters is, like, that angel. It's exactly how it looked in my head. Now, not that the Thinker's, like, held up at a cross with the spear of Longinus in her or anything. But it gave me a very similar vibe, and I really liked that. The imagery was really cool. So then they start, like, destroying it and throwing it at Zion to piss him off, which is working, and he starts throwing a tantrum, and they're like, yeah, he's so fundamentally human. This is how he's dealing with grief. This is how so many of us have dealt with grief the first time we felt it. Not that it makes us feel sorry for him, because fuck this guy, but just, isn't this interesting? I'm like, yeah, it is! Like, holy shit, this is so cool. They do end up escaping, like, they get Doormaker, go back, find Amy, have Amy just, like, heal everybody up, and then afterwards, Taylor's like, okay. Bonesaw, come here for a second. It's Riley. Riley, I don't give a fuck. Come here. Can you, I don't know, fuck with my head and make my power better and, like, take off some of the restrictions? Okay, first off, if I could, it's like, first of all, like, I genuinely don't know if I can do that. If I could, I would have done that with the Nine. I would have done that to me, I would have done that to Jack, I would have done that to Siberian, and we would have been monsters. Like, we were already monsters. Oh, by the way, real quick, this is something I was talking to Anthony about the other day. We were just, like, talking about where I'm at in the story and a bunch of different shit. We were talking about Jack, because I had been wondering for a while. I was like, so he has 2 powers that seem very unrelated. Like, he can communicate with people, and then he can basically use invisible sword beams. I'm like, I don't really understand that. But his is the broadcast shard. And I was talking to Anthony about that. I was like, I'm saying he's, like, communicating with Zion and all that shit. And he's like, oh, you know, you referring to it as such makes a lot of sense, because he's essentially broadcasting his, like, the edge of his blade. And I went, oh, yeah, I guess that is how it works. Okay, that's some abstract bullshit, but not in, like, a that's bullshit way. I'm like, it almost kind of is, but, like, no, I buy it, though. Like, that's some abstract bullshit, but it's kind of cool as fuck. Alright. Good shit, Wild. Good shit. Anyways, so Bonesaw's like, dude, if I could do that, I would have. And even if I think I could, I really don't think I should. Like, that is fucked. That is dangerous. nah, you don't want to do it. And then Taylor goes, please, because we need to beat him. And I think if I get strong enough, we could beat him. And then Amy goes, all right, I got the last time I did this to someone, I irrevocably fucked them up. What are the chances it would happen twice? Boom. And you know what? If Amy had a nickel for every time she touched someone's head and fucked with their brain and irrevocably fucked them up, she would have 2 nickels. And I love how that's just the note her story ends on there, is like, she touched my head and then everything went wrong. And from a little bit I've read of part 3, or of 30, I'm like, okay. I don't remember if I said this in a video, but I remember talking to Anthony about it. It was after I saw the crab dance. And I was like, so she can control bugs, and she can control crabs because they're basically bugs. Like, in the way they were, like, to her, there's no difference between them and bugs. Could Taylor do some, like, crazy shit where she sees, if she were to see a person as a bug, could she control them? And he's like, no, like, that's not how it works. I'm like, well, kind of? Like, I don't know if it's that she sees them as bugs now. If that's because, like, her passenger is just more in control and her passenger sees them as bugs because, like, shard entity think. But she can do that, and that's fucking bananas, and it's cool as hell. So that's that arc. And then we get Contessa's interlude, which is like, oh yeah, she was this little girl. She was like, I don't know if they said an age. I was thinking like 9, but she's a little kid, and she triggered. That's the thing. I'm not sure if she triggered or if she just got part of the entity. She had the Thinker and the Warrior, and then they went boom, which released the shards, and the Thinker crashed, and her shards just kind of got released unplanned, and Contessa got one of them, and she got that one, which is like the best one. It's Tattletale's power on crack. Because Tattletale's power is like, okay, I'm trying to figure shit out. Question, boom. Okay, question, boom. And getting information, not always what she wants, being a little bit closer to it, and it's not always reliable, although it mostly is. Contessa's is, I want this, and then her brain just goes, okay, do this, boom, 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 here's your 10-step plan, here's your 40-step plan, here's your 2,196-step plan. That's wild as fuck. I love the way she talks. I am assuming in present day she's been here long enough she actually knows how to communicate, but also she rarely talks, so maybe not. Is that she doesn't know how to speak English or any other language. Her power just tells her which ways to move her mouth so she can communicate what she wants to. That's so fucking weird, and especially in the audiobook, how stilted her dialogue was. Made it even cooler because of just how, like, I could feel her not knowing what the fuck she's saying, but trusting that she was saying, sorry, I was just looking at the time, like, trusting that she was saying it right. Fuck, that's cool. Also, it's like, that's when she met Dr. Mother, and so Contessa's basically the mastermind behind Cauldron. Dr. Mother is the face, and then they kind of realized if someone else is calling the shots, it becomes easier for Contessa to do her job, so then Dr. Mother took over. But it's still kind of her brainchild. There's also the scene where she's getting attacked by Weld in present day, and is talking to the number man on the phone, and just like casually talking to him while fending off Weld and shit, and that was really neat. She survived, she used her power to get away, and now she's with Teacher, and Teacher's like, we have a fucking problem, which is Taylor. There's also this one bit, and it was talking about like the early Cauldron capes, and there's this one guy who's like, dude, like I feel so good. You know, it's like you could really help people. Like I want to do this. I want to help you help people. And like I think that's supposed to be Legend, because Eidolon sounds like he was a bit later. Alexandria, we know, was after Eidolon. I'm assuming that was Legend, and they talked about another guy that was also there who was an inventor, so that's a tinker, so I'm assuming that was Hero, that Hero and Legend were in the first batch. There were also some Case 53s, and they specifically mentioned that there was this boy. I don't remember how they I don't remember if they mentioned like the gray skin or if the looping, but I'm like, oh shit, Gray Boy was like one of their first creations. That's actually kind of nutty. And I thought that was just kind of neat. And that was 29. It starts off really good. For me, got really boring by focusing on two groups that I ultimately did not really care about, honestly, because they showed up a little too late. Like, the Vegas capes are just way too late for me to care at all, unfortunately. I mean, to be fair, a character can show up really late, but be really interesting and have a big impact, and I can get invested, but Fierce had one scene, and I thought this guy was amazing. Like, the Vegas capes never really left that impact. The Irregulars as a whole are just kind of there, but there are standout characters, and I really think if you did that shit with Fault Line's crew and just added those standout characters there, I think it would have been fantastic. And all the ending shit with Sveta and Dr. Mother and Zion and the Garden, I thought that was immaculate. I loved that ending bit with Amy because of course, like, she's my favorite character, but just how creepy and unsettling that is. Like, yeah, she touched my head and everything went to shit. I loved that. As I said, I am hoping to finish by Monday or Tuesday. If everything goes to plan, I will finish tomorrow. I'm excited.